Hey everyone, welcome to episode 9, season 9, episode 9 of In the Studio with Brad, uh, where I will be spending the next 1 hour and 45 minutes with you because we're going to be cutting off a little bit earlier so that Manly Mike Curtis can do In the Mob Mike at 9 o'clock and so that Alana can use the little girls' room in between the shows because otherwise I don't think it could get very uncomfortable for her by what, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock? Something like that. Yeah. Longer than you care to have to do the P dance for, especially when you're sitting down.
No kidding.
So, by the kind reminder of Mrs. McDevitt, I am supposed to pull a slip of paper at the very beginning of the show. For those of you who are tuning in for the very, very first time, I have a collection here of weird trivia and really painful jokes. And by painful, I mean the Marquis de Sade would go wincing from the room when, rather than having to hear any of these jokes. But I think this is just some trivia. Okay, here we go. Jupiter is a planet made entirely of gases, which is what from I've heard actually conflicting stuff that I think they now think there is a small rocky core, but for all effective purposes, Jupiter is only a few steps short of basically igniting and being a small secondary star for our solar system. So, in case you ever wondered what would happen if like a million aliens always talk about at the same time, now you know. So, what are we working on this week? Well, first off, uh, the last week has not been the most wildly productive for me, though I have gotten stuff done. I played a little bit of hooky from Goodman Games and worked on a job for Postmortem Studios for their production of Dungeon Crawl Classics Whitechester. And this will be the cover for the second book for that. So look for that at Gen Con or at the next convention that Goodman Games has a product at. Isn't that just charming? Alana, can you remind? I don't remember. Did I show off the occupation pieces from X Crawl Classics last time?
You did, because you were
Uh,
working on the chef, I believe.
okay. Oh, okay. Just the chef.
That's the one that you were working on. I think you showed maybe one other one, but feel free to show us again. We do love the
Okay.
art.
Let's see if I can find them real fast. Because I know I thought I printed them out, but since it's been a couple weeks, I had kind of forgotten some of this stuff. Let me sift through ye old paperwork here. Here we go. The chef, the ranch hand, and I'm not sure what she is. Okay, so here we go. For those of you who have seen them before, which I assume at this point is most of you, these are some pieces from X-Crawl Classics for the occupations section. So here we have a ranch hand, and her equipment is, I believe, a good pair of gloves. I decided to add the shovel and the lariat and the sword just to kind of give it that little bit of X-Crawl kick. Okay, here is the chef who works at Viva La Vittles, Roman style family restaurant where you are familia. Uh, if we get sued by Olive Garden, I guess I'm SOL, by the way. And finally, don't exactly remember what she's a body modification artist, hence all the really cool tattoos. So there we go, folks. That's what I've been working on for X Crawl. And as soon as I get done with the piece that I'm working on during the show tonight, I will be jumping on the artwork for X-Curl Classics #4. We've actually got several modules like that just get boom, 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 boom. And I'm doing #4. They decided to divvy it up the artwork, one book per artist. This is what happens when you order your tongue off Wish. So, going back to Zombieland here, we have a fungal zombie here. And isn't that just charming?
I like
Doesn't
him.
that make doesn't that make you just want to, jump on the phone and call Pizza Hut and order a pizza with like quadruple mushrooms?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
Yeah. I did have fun researching this one though. And finally, just because the client, Grim Jim DeBurros, has a truly twisted sense of humor, a pregnant zombie. Yes, you'll probably be revisiting this lady about 4 o'clock this morning when you wake up screaming. I know I just about did this morning, and I drew the bloody thing.
Uh,
So,
uh.
yeah, tell me about it. So, what are we working on this week? Okay, so I'm putting the touches on a book for uh, Dark Tower, which I believe is Monsters and Magic of Dark Tower. I believe that's the name of the book. Half the time I just kind of get work orders, as I think I have mentioned in the past. But this is a cleric of Set, the essentially the big bad of the Dark Tower universe. And he's getting ready to do evil cleric kind of things to that poor schmuck on the altar. And as a companion piece, Mitra, who is one of the good guys, or the good guy deity of the Dark Tower universe, with one of his priests. And this is what I'm going to be working on tonight. I don't know whether I will be able to completely finish him in the next hour and 40 minutes or so, but I'm going to try, kids. So, any questions to start? Otherwise, let's dive right on in, okay? And away we go. There we go. Even a good guy stone altar has to have some texture to it. So let's go in here with some pointillism, give it kind of a sandstone texture. A little bit of a crack where the stone, some of the stone is maybe starting to age a bit. As my sinuses decide they want to really make my life miserable tonight. Oh, by the way, folks, just so you know, I mowed earlier, and so I was doing some yard work. And so if you hear me groaning in utter agony, it's either because of one of the last joke I had to tell, or I'm just in pain. Just to warn you. Oh, a quick update on my wife. Uh, she is not home yet, as some of you may be aware, and we have had to make the executive decision to decide not to go to Gen Con for this year. I know some of you may have been attending and been wanting to meet Jess, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen this year. But we will be there for next year. And we're looking forward to seeing all of you. Okay.
So have you like you've been doing so many things for Dark Tower in the recent year and a half or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there like anything that stands out particularly that you really like about Dark Tower, or that you found kind of, or even on the other vein, like if you found it kind of annoying trying to draw certain things?
I've had to do a little bit of research on Egyptology and doing hieroglyphics. Um, that was the only thing that was even vaguely annoying, because trying to find a good picture of the hieroglyphics that are hold on, let me how do I want to phrase it? That are simple enough to be shown as part of the background of an illustration without taking forever to do. And I have to admit, a couple of them I just kind of faked. It's like they look, yeah, this looks enough like hieroglyphics, you know. But other than that, no. I have no problems with doing a decent amount of research, especially if you're trying to emulate a particular look. There we go. Especially if I mean, I wouldn't call Dark Tower by any stretch of the imagination a historical setting, but it does have kind of that, pseudo Egyptian feel to it. So I don't mind doing research for that. It reminds me a little bit of there was a time I was doing a job for the current publishers of Savage Worlds, and they were doing it was their Weird War setting for Vietnam. And there I had to do a ton of research because I had to get the uniforms and such correct for was it like four different countries that were actually involved in the Vietnamese conflict. So I spent a fair amount of time. So luckily, with a project like that, it's not very hard to find research on the Vietnam War. And that was before I even discovered the internet. And now it's like, oh, I need to find pictures of Egyptian headwear. Hold on just a second. Google, Google, Google. Ah, that's what that should look like. Ta-da! I have this huge library of research books here, and I almost never use them because it's faster just to jump on Google a lot of the time. There we go. That's looking good so far. Looking kind of rocky textured, don't you think? By the way, folks, just in case you were wondering, no, I don't talk this much when I'm just sitting here in the studio by myself. I may be crazy, but I don't actually talk to myself except when I'm being pissed off at myself. Oops, I used a P word. You may have to edit that out. And I've been known to call my computer a whole bunch of words that would get us demonetized if Alana did not bleep them out.
Yes. Please don't do that.
On a good day, I just threaten, the computer with the Louisville Slugger that I have across the room. Okay, that's starting to look nice and stony. What do you think, folks?
Looks like stone to me. Thank you, Mike. Someone, Mike, subscribed with Prime, so thank you very much for that.
Okay.
I just now saw that they also said that they're a huge fan of your art, and it's awesome to see you working.
Oh, well, thank you. All cynical and smart aleck comments aside, it's stuff like that that actually makes me feel like I'm actually accomplishing anything. Sometimes when you're stuck here in the studio by yourself, you kind of start losing track of the fact that, you aren't actually accomplishing anything. And trust me, I appreciate all my fans.
So I have to ask because I've been staring at it. How hard was it to draw that statue without a nose?
Not actually very hard. I decided to not draw the nose.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I don't know if I can draw a face without a nose.
Considering there's some things that I have to draw on a daily basis, not drawing a nose is pretty low on that list.
That's fair, though I asked Chuck what the hardest thing to him would be to draw, and he said bicycles.
Yeah, I can see that actually because of all the angles of the spokes. Trying to draw those in a realistic anything even vaguely realistic fashion, because they're all at such weird angles to each other. I mean, even think a normal bicycle wheel, just looking at it, it's like the angles are all the different spokes are slightly different angles, and then now try to you recreate that in a drawing.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It's much easier to do that in like a 3D fashion, like a whatchamacallit, like clay or whatever. Because you can kind of just make the spoke and then just stick it on there at the angle that looks right. Whereas like drawing, it's like, okay, I've got to get this in a perfectly straight line going this direction, and then the next one has to go this way.
Mm-hmm. I think seriously, the last time that I had to actually draw a motorcycle, I literally just Googled until I found the motorcycle that I liked, and then I just slapped it on the light table because, like, otherwise, I think I'd still be drawing that damn thing.
That's fair.
Hey, Boris Vallejo can do it, so can I. Actually, a lot of professional artists use a lot of light table type stuff. One of the original artist for Vampire the Masquerade. His professors in college absolutely hated him because he used the light table so much. They're like, are you ever actually going to bother learning how to actually draw, Tim? Well, the thing is, he used a lot of his, like a lot of the portraits for original Vampire and such. Those were people he actually knew and actually lived in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois, where I was living for a while. It was very strange to walk into the one bar and it's like, uh, I know you. Oh, your name's Dan. I know you as the the one ghost from Rape. I walked into a store one time, and the one clerk that was working, I think, was the guy that posed for the cover for Malkavian, for Clan Book Malkavian. It was very strange. I mean, kind of cool, but you know, yeah, he ended up marrying the one. I can't remember her name anymore, but yeah, she was a bartender at the bar that we both hung out at. I think she ended up being the model for the original Clan Book Toreador. There we go. So use a slightly thicker line here for some of this stuff to help make it pop from the background details. Good. But yeah, a lot of really famous artwork, especially and I don't think this is limited to the gaming industry. A lot of it is tracing work. Like I worked on the very last Twilight 2000 book that Game Designers Workshop published before they went out of business. And there was such a demand for exacting detail that they flat out told me at the office is like, just go ahead and go over to the library and start finding research material. Well, okay, Well, the problem was by that point in Twilight 2000 publishing industry or history, pretty much all the pictures of modern military use had already been scavenged by previous artists. So I ended up having to basically kind of like, well, I guess I get the leftovers to use as reference material. So no questions from the audience yet?
No, it's pretty quiet so far.
Uh,
We do have a random Joker fact redemption now.
okay. Give me 1 second here. There we go. That adds a little bit of sense of three-dimensionality to that pyramid in the background. I think we've got a joke here, folks. Let me see here. This is not on me, folks. Remember, I just choose them randomly. You can blame my wife for them. See, that's why you all need to come to Gen Con next year so you can curse her for her choice of jokes to her face, okay? What do sheep wear to the beach? Anyone?
No, I
You
got nothing.
you'll wish you had nothing. But of course they wear a bikini.
Oh. Ah, Jess. Jess. No. This deserves the scissor treatment.
Well, I didn't have time to get a flamethrower between last show and now. Where were we, folks? If this were a game of Call of Cthulhu, I think we'd all be down about 1d10 sanity points or more, maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that assessment.
By the way, has anybody heard anything good, bad, or indifferent about the new Call of Cthulhu? I really haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I honestly didn't even know there was another one until you just said it because I hadn't heard anything.
Yeah. I was just wondering if, it's like, we hear so much about fifth edition, but, it's like pretty much, you know, all the other new editions of shows of games just seem to be kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, didn't they come out with a new edition of Vampire just like, what, 2 years ago now?
Yes, yeah, they did.
But we haven't heard Jack Diddley about it. I mean, the only thing I heard was some ridiculous stuff that they were trying to slide through some neo-Nazi symbolism because one of the dicing examples used 8-8 as part of a roll of like lots of dice. And I'm like, you're joking, right? I mean,
Huh.
I know the guy. What's that?
Like I'm just trying to figure out the or like why what?
Oh, you don't. Oh, you didn't know that bit of stupid iconography. I take it.
Oh, no, it's not that. It's just like are people just trying to fit some kind of agenda that doesn't exist?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I know Ken Height, but if you ask me for a list of 100 people I know that could be Nazis, he'd be like number 101. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah. I mean, you roll, a bunch of D10s. There's a good chance you're going to roll a couple eights in there, and that's just what he did. He probably actually rolled, you know, like 7 or 8 10-sided dice, whatever. I don't remember the exact numbers that he was trying to do an indication of for this, but because two of the numbers he rolled were an 8 and an 8, separate, by the way, people thought that he was trying to slide by a pro-Nazi reference.
That's
I
just so
personally,
laughable.
I mean, I know a lot of the people at Onyx Path, or no, or well, a lot of the people that used to be White Wolf, and if you really think any of them are possibly neo Nazis, you're stupid. I'm sorry.
NWI Dungeon Crawler says the Call of Cthulhu 7th edition is decent, but basically the same as the previous versions.
That's what I kind of gathered from the quick start rules that I got my hands on, that there's really not enough difference to make it really worth, investing in. The problem I have with, well, pretty much any actual horror game, especially if you advertise it as being a horror game, people know that something horrible is going to happen at some point. So they're pre-prepared, you know?
Yeah.
Some old gaming friends of mine told me a story that they did a great horror adventure, actually, using TSR's old Boot Hill Western rules. Well, they started it off as a normal Boot Hill adventure, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Boot Hill, it's a straightforward Western game. You know, rustlers, uh, banditos, bank robbers, etc., etc. With me so far, guys? So they were running through a fairly bog standard seeming adventure. Cows were getting killed, and they seemed to, and they traced it back to who they thought was the, evil wannabe cattle baron for the area, you know, killing off other people's herds, to increase the value of his own. Pretty straightforward so far, right?
Sure.
And the NPC that had gotten them involved was, of course, the local school marm, a pretty little thing, probably had a southern accent, innocent as a lamb. But if we don't stop these cows from getting killed, I'm going to have to sell and lose the land. The whole shtick, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Of course. I mean, I think we've all seen this particular episode of Gunsmoke, what, like 100 times? So they bring the evil, you know, cattle baron to justice, even though there doesn't seem to be actually a whole lot of evidence that he actually has seems to be behind all these things, all these all these deaths. But who else is going to be the bad guy in a scenario like this, right? So they haul him off to jail, and they go to tell the school marm that her troubles are over. The bad guy has been defeated. And she says, "Thank you, thank you." And then suddenly her jaws extended about 6 feet and hit the one character's head straight off his shoulders. Oops.
Oh
That
no.
was that, by the way, was when the players suddenly realized they were in a horror game. And I thought that was utterly brilliant. Because if you get involved in a game of Call of Cthulhu, it's eventually, something big and squishy and ugh, is going to show up, you know? But if you're playing a game like Boot Hill and something like that happens, then you're surprised, kids.
I think I'd subvert expectations in Call of Cthulhu and make the icky, squishy, as you like to say it, be something that is um, fluffy and funny, just because I find that much more horrifying than, trying to do cosmic horror.
Yeah. Actually, I have, I think, third edition. That's the last version I bothered to get. And they flat out say, like, don't bother doing Cthulhu-ish stuff every episode because, yeah, you'll get, you know, your players will get to the point where they know what to expect every bloody time. so
Yeah.
mixed up, you know?
On this episode of Call of Cthulhu, the fight of the teddy bears.
The what?
The fight of the teddy bears.
Yeah, really. That I would pay to illustrate.
And they'd have
Actually,
to be like those giant teddy bears that you see at like gift shops or whatever, or in like the window shops of toy stores, like the giant.
mhm. Well, one of the second job I ever did for X Crawl, back shortly after Goodman Games acquired it, I had to draw the two characters fighting a 12-foot tall gummy teddy bear. Well, because it was set in Indianapolis, and anyone who's spent any time in Indianapolis knows there was at least a candy store there that specialized in gigantic gummy candies. So,
So I think I've figured out what I need to look for next time I'm there, if it still exists.
uh, hey, hon, didn't we look for that candy store and it is gone though? I seem to remember last time we were at the mall, it was not there anymore.
She says that she thinks it's still in the mall.
Okay. On the second floor, on the left-hand side as you're coming from the entrance from the convention center.
How to tell you've been there too many times. The Brad edition.
I'm horrible with names, but I'm great with like visual directions.
Can I just have that instead? Like, I'd rather not remember the name of a place and be able to also, like, I would like both, granted, but if I can't remember the name, granted, most of the time I can't remember the name, but if I can't remember the name, I'd at least like to be able to tell you where it is and how to find it.
Okay. Okay. That Italian restaurant in Gettysburg from a couple weeks ago.
I know what you were talking about because you told me where it was. I wouldn't have been able to tell you where it was myself. But I knew what you were talking about because I knew that there's only a couple of like really good Italian places, I think, if only the one, I believe, in Gettysburg that's like in downtown.
Yeah. I'm not sure I could get you there, just randomly, but I was basically able to tell you relatively precisely where it was, other than the name of the street, because it's going down a slight hill on the left-hand side. Do you remember the name of that store, hon? She's better with this kind of stuff than I am.
She hasn't said the name of it, but she said it's her favorite store in the Indy Mall because they have the best German gummy bears.
Mm-hmm.
And Appalachian Brewing Company is really good. She said to hold
What is
on.
it?
She's looking it up. She said that the Appalachian Brewing Company is good. Yes, I say Appalachian and not Appalachian.
Is it just me, or is this ultra getting more and more decrepit looking as this drawing goes on?
Yeah, it's starting to fall apart a little bit in your hands.
Do, 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 do. That's how you can always tell if you're getting an actual original when you buy something from an artist with if there are all sorts of silly notes in the side in the on the around the edges of the illustration.
Oh yeah.
I forget which it was a job several years ago, but I got a call from my boss at the time to let me know that she had a new cell phone number. So I just scribbled it down on the first piece of paper I had on hand. It happened to be the illustration I was working on at the time. And, you know, 4 years later, I'm going to someone like, oh, I should probably erase Miranda's phone number before I sell this to some random guy from God only knows where.
She gets a random phone call.
Yeah.
I'm sure she'd appreciate that. Oh, Jess says that it does look like the candy store is gone now.
I kind of thought I did not see it last time.
Sad.
Hey, I'll be happy as long as the one Japanese place is still in the food court at the mall. I don't get Japanese food very often, so
I'm in the same boat. Like I gotta find a good place up here to get
yeah.
to get it because I'm like I have been craving. There was this one place at I have never found another place like this. Even moving up here to Pennsylvania, I have yet to find somebody to point me in a direction of a place like this that's not miles upon miles away. But
Hmm.
back in North Carolina, probably about 30 minutes from where I grew up, was this place called E Noodles. And they had giant bowls of ramen that you could get. Their sushi
Hmm.
was to die for, and they had pretty dang good cocktails.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a place that just opened up called Oodles of Noodle. Oh, no, excuse me, the Noodle Company that I'm dying to try out.
They're pretty good. There's a noodle place down the street from me, and every now and then when I'm feeling really lazy, I get their pad thai. It is
Hmm.
it is worth it. It is yummy. Tyler normally gets the 3 cheese tortellini, pesto tortellini.
Ooh.
It's pretty good. What else have I had? I've had their. I think they had a Korean barbecue
Oh my God.
style, and that one was alright. It's not my favorite. I really like the pad thai, though I get it without cilantro, because cilantro tastes like soap to me. I'm one of those people with that gene that tells me that cilantro is bad.
So you're like one of the really lame X-Men?
Yeah, basically. That's my
Wow.
superpowers. I can't eat cilantro. It tastes like soap.
The only good news is Magneto looked at you and it's like you're not worth killing,
Heck
you know?
yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's the thing, there's several Japanese restaurants here in Toledo, but they are all brutally expensive. Like Nagoya, it's like, oh, here's a glass of water. That'll be $10, please. Thank you. Gee, thanks. I mean, I like my Japanese food. I don't like it enough that I wanted to have to declare bankruptcy after it.
Yeah. Hello Yesto says, "Oh, did anybody see the Wolverine suit for Deadpool 3? I didn't realize
Oh,
they were making a third one."
yes. And he convinced Hugh Jackman to come back as Wolverine one more time. And he actually grew out his mutton chops
I
so
love
that
it.
he is in a version of the original yellow and black costume.
I love it. Thank
Yeah.
you, whoever convinced him to do that. It was probably Ryan Reynolds. Thank you, thank you. That is
Oh
amazing.
yeah. Oh yeah. If you Google for Deadpool 3, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, yeah, Hugh Jackman actually grew up. You know how Wolverine used to have those huge mutton chops in the comics? He grew them out for this. Oh, this is a self-fulfilling joke.
Oh
Have
no.
you heard the joke about paper? It's terrible.
Oh.
I think that's a I think that's a very good idea.
Yep.
I would say we're getting to the bottom of the barrel for the jokes, but I think the bot we hit that a couple weeks ago. We're now in the dirt underneath the barrel, digging into the dirt. Okay. Just think, folks, only one more week of this, and then you know, what I should probably do is contact Chris and have him get a bunch of excruciatingly bad jokes just to inflict on you guys too.
Jeff says this is what happens when you have way too much time on your hands.
Yeah. We'll add that to list 101 of the dear God, please let her come home soon so that do. All right. That I think the rest of that Walter actually came out pretty good looking, guys. What do you think? Okay, now let's work on the priest here. From what I understand from the work order, a lot of Mithra's priesthood is drawn from the warrior caste, and that's why this guy is basically as ripped as he is, because he's probably not an actual just priest, he's probably a warrior. Or a fighter, whatever they call the military types in fifth edition. Is it still fighters? I don't remember.
I'm not sure, but Jess is saying that you need to put your hand near the camera to make it refocus. Oh yeah, it is kind of being funky.
Oh, is
There
it?
we go.
Is
I think it's better
it?
now.
Okay. Just a second, folks. My eyes are going. I can't imagine why.
Have you had enough water?
Hmm?
Have you had enough water?
Oh, actually, I just took a sip. No, it's taken me many years, but I finally realized I have got to learn how to hydrate more properly than I have in the past. Too many years of easy access to large quantities of fountain pops, if you know what I mean.
I do indeed.
Yeah, so I think that guy's looking pretty good at this point. Being an artist like this is one of the few times where you almost want to say, like, why, yes, you do want to be a little bit on the OCD side, you know?
Yeah.
The trick, and I was thinking about this earlier today because I've got an illustration that I'm going to revise very soon. Is when you need to try and find that balance between letting your OCD inform your artwork or whatever you're trying to do to its best, and when you're just letting it run rampant for no reason whatsoever. Oh, and of course, I don't have the example from earlier, the pregnant zombie picture that I showed earlier.
Uh-huh.
Well, I kind of looked at her again this morning, and it's like this needs a little bit more dramatic lighting. So I just did a quick printout, and I kind of faked in the lighting that I thought would do the job. And I'm like, yeah, this needs to be done. I mean, it's a solid picture as is, but you know, it just makes that much of a difference to have more dramatic lighting. So this isn't something where, I'm the only person who would ever notice it. You also have to balance, when you spot what you might perceive as an error in the illustration, you have to kind of balance out like, okay, am I the only person who's ever going to notice this quote unquote mistake? Versus also how much time will it take me to fix it?
Yeah.
You know, well, for example, the fungal zombie picture that I showed earlier, I spotted a slight oversight in the background image. Very, very minor. Okay. It's like, do I want to fix this? So I opened it up and it took me like 10 seconds to fix. It's like, okay, you know what? Not a big deal. It also didn't take any time worth mentioning. It took almost as much time for the Photoshop to file as it was to make the correction. So I kind of viewed that as yeah, this was worth it, you know? Now, if it had been something where it would have taken me an hour or more to fix, yeah, never mind. But like I said, it took me long enough to open the file and activate one tool. And of course, and then you always have to balance it like, is it a mistake or oversight enough that probably the art director is going to say something about it? If you have made a mistake that large, yeah, it's time to fix it, even if it is going to take some time.
Yeah.
Happily, I don't think I've made any errors to that extent in quite some time. But errors do slip by, especially when you're a commercial artist and you're functioning under deadlines, because sometimes you're thinking more about getting the finished piece to the client and getting on to the next job in the queue, rather than well, I'll just wait until I think this piece is ready to go out the door. It's like, no, sorry. Uh, you don't have those kind of luxuries, you know? Like, I have a friend who wanted to be a writer who ended up working on the same story for like 6 years. And I'm like, dude, this this story is only a few thousand words long. Just finish the bloody thing, send it out, and if an editor doesn't like it, they will probably send it back with a, hey, we need this fixed before we can look at it again. You know?
You don't gotta call me out like that.
No, I'm serious.
I've been sitting here on a novel that I've written to chapter 5 4 times in a row because I hate it, and then I restart it. I think it's on its like fifth iteration now.
Alana, how many times did Tolstoy start and stop War and Peace?
Oh, I can't remember.
I think, if I remember correctly, he wrote the final chapter 28 times before he finally was happy with it. The entire manuscript, I forget, I think he wrote it out basically 14 times. War and Peace, folks.
And that's a
And this
big book.
that was before the days of word processors. That might have been before the days of typewriters, not come to think of it,
Yeah,
you
most
know.
likely.
I don't even want to think about that.
I mean, I kind of already do because I refuse to type anything. Like, I'm not kidding. I may be just a weirdo, but a blank Word document like Google Docs or Microsoft Word or Apple's Pages or whatever, like,
Hmm.
I stare at a blank page and I can't write. I
Hmm.
cannot type anything. It is intimidating. Like a complete blank page like that. I have to have a lined notebook or like lined notebook paper, like copy whatever the filler paper I think is what it's called. Like
Yeah.
I have to have like lines on a paper for me to be able to sit down and write. It is such a
Oh, really?
weird OCD thing for me. Like a blank sheet of
Yeah.
paper is intimidating.
Huh, that's really strange to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just the first time I remember, because I'm dating myself about how long it's been since I was in college. But the first couple of years I was at Bowling Green, we would do reports, and I was actually typing it out. I actually had a typewriter in my dorm room, tap 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 tap, and one of my neighbors like, "Hey, you want to try and use my word processor?" It's like, a word. Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I knew what a word processor was. I just didn't have one. And so he loaned me the use of his crappy little, Macintosh, and I opened up, oh God, whatever it was, whatever their Macintosh's old native word processing program was. And about half hour later, I had about 6 pages of a note of a manuscript done. Not a manuscript. It was something for an ed class. I mean, when I started, writing stuff in the gaming industry, one of the first things I did when it's like, you know what, this is something I'm actually going to do, is I invested in an old 8088 desktop. And yes, I think I just gave away about how long it's been since I've been doing stuff like this. Do any of you even know what I mean by an 8088?
I'm gonna have to say no for me.
It had 80 megabytes of RAM.
Oh my lord.
Its clock speed was 88.
Oh lord.
It could make 88, 88 decisions a second.
That's amazing.
I know.
In that time, that's amazing.
No, even by this time, that was pretty pathetic.
Yeah, it was. I was trying to make you feel better.
I
I'm
was like,
sorry.
but I mean, for basic word processing, it was fine, but it's like an 8088,
Like for
And now I
thinking
have
about it, anything else would be too much for it.
I have a feeling this could probably outperform that computer for computing power at this point. And this is what did we get this at Dollar Tree, hon? No, no. It's a pen and gear, so this is was like a buck from a Walmart. Yeah, an 8088. It had the old amber screen, and before you could actually move the unit, you had to physically lock the hard drives in place.
Nice.
Yeah. I had to fend off calls from the Smithsonian's like, please, we need this for our antiquities collection, honest. It'll go well with the cuneiform collection. But it did the job. It was affordable, and it got, I was able to write an entire book on it. I mean, on write a book, not write a book on it, but I was able to use it to actually write a book. Okay. This is the part of the job I should have been doing earlier this afternoon, but I got busy prepping stuff for the X-Crawl Classics job. So you're just going to have to watch me sketch for a few moments, folks.
You're talking about your computer or back then and all of this stuff, and I'm sitting here going, I'm pretty sure I've got like 32 to 64 gigabytes of RAM. I don't remember what my clock speed is, but I've got 8 cores on my on my CPU.
Let's just say it's probably capable of doing more than 88 decisions per second.
Oh, 100%. I'm streaming while I also have a million tabs open in Google Chrome, and I've got, oh god, what else is running on my computer? So many things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 88 decisions. I wonder what would have happened if somehow I managed to type more than 88 characters in 1 second. Would the computer just have like lagged behind me until I slowed down enough for it to catch up? I really don't know enough about computer science to be able to say about this kind of stuff.
Brad, I'm pretty sure even if you did, you'd probably just say voodoo magic nonsense. As a person who hangs out with a lot of engineering people, that are like software and hardware engineers and coders,
Mm-hmm.
they talk to me, and then there are some times where they literally will just tell me, yes, sometimes I don't even know what's going on. It's just voodoo magic.
Great.
Especially when it comes to networking. Networking is just magic. I don't know how it exists.
I could not tell you a lot of the time.
Electricity for, I'm pretty sure it's electricity of some kind, I believe, going over cat. But fiber is literally a fiber optic, like a string of fiber optic that's super flexible, and pretty fragile. Like, don't step on the yellow cord that's in our basement. Fragile. Um,
Okay. By the
and
way, is anybody here in the audience having flashbacks from that one line in the Avengers where Captain America says, it seems to run on some form of electricity?
that's basically what it feels like. Yes, that's network. Like, literally, internet lines just run on a laser going across fiber optic. It's really dumb, and I don't know how that sends information, but it does.
I,
Voodoo magic, Brad. It's voodoo magic.
yeah. I basically come to the conclusion that half the time we're living in the world of Star Trek and we just don't realize it yet.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the beams. I want to be able to say, "Beam me up, Scotty."
We
I'd
have
be able.
teleportation, Alana.
I know, but not not blah, 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 not commercialized. We're not allowed to do it as normal people yet.
That's because we're larger than quantum parts of a single atom.
That's what I want, though. I want the beam me up, Scotty. I don't want to just send a letter to somebody in an instant. I can do that over email, damn it.
Yeah, but yeah, I just think it's boggles my mind that they have proven that teleportation isn't just science fiction, kids. You know,
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Physics rocks.
well, it's like okay, 10 years ago, would you have believed that they could basically send information over the internet to the ISS so that they could print a wrench?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like they 3D printed a wrench. They needed was it a wrench?
I don't
Or was it
remember.
just a really or was it just a really specific like piece of like wrench style equipment that they didn't have on the ISS? So they basically emailed them the STL for this repair device and they just 3D printed it in space.
It's so cool. 3D printing rocks. I wish I could design in a 3D space like that. I just don't have the patience to teach myself, which is why it's more I wish I had the patience to teach myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I have 3D printed things that I've found, like, on GitHub or whatever, and it's just, like, it is so cool to sit there and watch the 3D printer do the thing. And, like, my dad, like, most of his items on his store, other than, like, his statues that he's collected over the years of owning his hobby shop, like, he makes, like, I don't know if you know what meebles are.
Kind of.
So like he makes things like that, like little meeples, and he makes uh
Hold on just.
replacement parts for board games,
Oh, okay.
and they sell pretty well. And all he does is just 3D print these guys out, and I'm like, who would have guessed that like people would be making money off of things they 3D print in their house? Here we are.
Um, well, look, within the gaming industry, Tom Tullis from Fat Dragon Games started off selling just standard terrain and such. And a few years ago, he pivoted to starting designing STLs. And that is all that Fat Dragon does these days. And the guy is richer than frigging Midas at this point.
Yeah. Well, it's like there's a company that you can 3D print miniatures, or even like if you've heard of Hero Forge, like you can create your
Mhm,
own like miniatures, and they will
mhm.
give you the download so that you can 3D print it yourself if your 3D printer's good enough. The only issue that I've had doing that was we didn't calibrate. I don't believe we calibrated our 3D printer quite right because we could not get it fine tuned enough for the itty bitty details on the miniatures. But
Ah,
that's the only issue that I
yeah.
found. Also, did you know that there's 3D printers that do resin and
What's that?
not just like the plastic? They print with resin instead of the plastic.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until like a few days ago. Tyler's company does that. They've got a resin printer that they've bought because resin, even though it's more fragile than the plastic piece, the
Hmm.
plastic ABS. ABS.
I
I can't
couldn't tell you.
remember. I can't remember what it's called. But like it's a harder material, so it's less likely to, even though like it's more fragile, like if you bend it a certain way it's not as flexible, but like
Mm,
it's a harder, it's an actual, like it's a harder material, so it'll actually stay.
it's like the carbon steel that they use, Japanese smiths use in katanas.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, made it's harder and it keeps an edge better, but it is more fragile. No,
Yeah.
Alana, they uh um hold on just a second. No, they 3D print in a lot of different stuff. I was just watching a video earlier from one of the guys that used to do Mythbusters, and he was at a place that does titanium 3D printing.
That's cool.
They 3D print they were 3D printing a suit of Iron Man's armor. You can look it up on YouTube if you want.
That's pretty sick.
255 pieces, and yes, it flew.
That's amazing.
I've seen the rest of this video. He actually was able to fly. Granted, he flew like 3 feet off the ground, but it was titanium armor. They were taking shots at it with a 22 from maybe 15 feet. Ping! Ding!
That would
Ding!
scare me. I don't
Yeah,
know if
but
I'd
I mean,
want to do that. Like, I don't know if I'd want to test that.
no, I mean he wasn't wearing the armor at the time.
Oh. Oh, okay.
No, he wasn't quite.
Whew.
He's not quite. Savage isn't quite that crazy, but no, they took it out to the test range and put it on a dummy, and were taking pot shots at it, and yeah, the one, I mean, 15 feet is basically point blank range. It didn't even ding like a quarter of a millimeter deep.
That's cool.
I mean, he was like, I can feel it because I know where it hit. He's like, but you can see it on camera. It had not penetrated the armor to any degree that, would make any difference at all.
That's cool, though.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah. Of course, they did not talk about how much it was costing to 3D print this suit of armor.
Yeah, let's not think
Yeah,
about that. Let's just bask in the coolness of it.
yeah, exactly. For one thing, titanium is monstrously expensive, you know, and then you're 3D printing it, which is, you know, but yes, the finale of that episode was, yes, him donning the suit of armor and kind of flying around the inside of this warehouse with it. To say that he was geeking out the whole time does not even begin to describe it. I'm just waiting for when they're actually starting to be able to start 3D printing internal organs. You know?
From what I understand, the main issue behind that, like why it's difficult, is because they don't keep. Like organic matter doesn't keep as well for obvious reasons, and you can't like. There's no like there are instances like they 3D print like certain prosthetics and stuff that they already put in your body and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like doing an entire organ. Like your body would basically shut down if it was made of something that was inorganic because your body would try to fight it.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, the cells don't keep, which is the main hiccup. At least that's what I remember reading a while ago. It could be different now. It could be a whole different
I
problem.
I don't know. Well, and
But
again, we're probably on the other hand, I mean, how much different is that from the heart transplant where it's like, okay, donor A just passed away. We've got to get this to not donor, recipient
Yeah.
within the next 4 hours, or it's useless.
Yeah, and then there's also the issue of like if you're doing it from the recipient side, like if you're taking their DNA to do it, it takes a lot of DNA to be able to craft it.
Yeah,
So, what
yeah.
are they? I forget what cells they are.
Stem
That
cells.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, yes, folks, I am something of a science geek that way. I think it comes from too many episodes of Star Trek when I was growing up.
Oh, I've been just sitting here going, is it too many like documentaries of some kind and the weird and macabre?
Well, actually, true story. Uh, my dad used to do organ donating like that for for an organization called Melvin E. Jones Eye Bank, where basically if somebody had donated their corneas, they could he would pick them up from where they were harvested and take them to wherever the recipient was. And there were many times when he would get a call at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, blank, you have to get to Youngstown, which is a good half hour away, because this person just died. We're harvesting his corneas right now. You got to get them, pick them up and take them to wherever, these other surgery, the recipient scoring is at. There were many times when, we get the call, he'd get the call 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and he would do it. And he had to be at work at 9 o'clock, and he would stumble back in the house at 8:30, change his clothes, and go right back out the door. Yeah, it's like, ew. And he did this, I have no clue how many times. And it's crazy, but there's probably a lot of people in or Northeast Ohio who can see because of he did this. So, I mean, if you look at it that way, it was a pretty worthwhile sacrifice. Plus, I bet the people at the local coffee shop, it's like, oh, here comes Woody. He's stumbling in. It's like, just get him an extra strong one right now. He must have had a late night last night with running eyeballs around.
Short story of the misfortunes of a organ organ runner.
Yeah. And we have like 2 minutes left, folks. So
Yep.
I will finish this and have it ready to show off for next week. Not sure what I'm working on for next Monday. Probably X crawl. Not sure yet. Probably. But I hope the past hour and 45 minutes have been relatively entertaining. I hope you all have wonderful weeks, and we shall see you next Monday at 7 p.m. sharp. You folks have a good night.